and welcome to Leading the Break. Today's segment is part of our series Around the World in America. Our guest today is Heather Vulin, the head women's basketball coach at Manhattan University. Heather will be discussing international recruiting. This season, her team has 8 players from outside the United States. Well, thanks, Heather, for doing this.
Oh, well, thanks for coming.
Okay, so let's start off by this. When did you first decide that you wanted to recruit internationally?
I just felt with our location here in New York City that we would be like a destination spot for a lot of international players. Like if they're gonna be away from their family and friends for 4 years, why not live in the greatest city in the world for those 4 years and play basketball?
So how long ago was it? Like, was there a moment in time you just made a decision, I'm gonna do this?
Well, Julie Hoyer was our first international that we got my first year here, and we got her right in the summer before my first season started.
Okay.
And she was from Denmark, and we had a wonderful experience with her. Really talented player, great student, great human being. And then Coach Vulin on my staff had a really decorated career overseas and had a lot of connections from the different teams that she played for. So she was able to really kind of get some names and some leads on some players, and I just feel once we had a good experience with one international player, then we got another one, and then they had good experiences. Whenever we did bring an international player on campus, I feel like they just really appreciated our family atmosphere.
So Coach Vulin kind of was the entree to developing the relationships overseas?
She does. She's actually in charge of our international recruiting. She does a phenomenal job of scouting talent, but also just building those relationships necessary to really build the trust. Like when you think of it, they're flying over an ocean. They may only go home in the summer to see their friends and families. So they've got to really be at a place where they feel supported. And I think we do a really good job of that here at Manhattan University.
So did you have to develop those relationships also? Or the Coach Vulin, was it enough that she developed those relationships?
So we both did. Like
okay.
I think for me, especially at a mid-major level, I feel like the head coach has to be involved in the recruiting. Some coaches don't prioritize it as much. Like I'll be honest, I love the X's and O's. I love the preparation for the games. But if you don't spend time really building that relationship before they get on campus, then you're just going to be stuck with a lot of surprises. And I don't want surprises. I want them to know me and me to know them. So then when they get here, we're already built that level of trust necessary.
So who did you develop the relations with? Is it with the clubs? Is it with the high schools? Is it with other people in
so
basketball
it depends. Scene? So, I feel like a number of the international players, we call them handlers. They work with someone that speaks English well, that's probably been a former player themselves in the U.S., but it's an international person. And then they know they've been through the NCAA process. So they're kind of like educating the player about what the process is like, but also being able to translate, because a number of the players do speak English fine, but the issue you have a lot of times is maybe the parents don't speak English. So it's nice to have like an adult, a part of the process that can communicate for you on your behalf to the parents, not just the player, in case their English isn't quite up to par yet.
So walk through an example. You don't have to name a player, but
yeah.
How does a player come to your attention? How do you then start the communication process? Do you go to meet the player, the handler, the parents? Give me an idea of just the logistics of that.
It depends. Like sometimes players just email you, or their handlers just email you, and then you look at a video and you're like, hey, I would like to follow up with this, okay? And then you start building a relationship that way. You can also use recruiting services, where you pay them money to go to all these tournaments and give you an idea of, hey, we see this player playing at this level or at this level or at this level, and then you can go from there. And then also the really great thing about international play is so many of the games are just online. Yeah, right? So if you don't have the money for a recruiting service, you don't need one. you can just get the FIBA schedule, know when the under 16s, under 17, under 18s are playing, and then just evaluate off film.
Really? Okay.
Then there's also times you can go overseas and watch them live. We've only done that once. A lot of our international recruiting is being able to identify talent and players from film, and then just building relationship with them, through phone calls and video calls.
Okay. So you have a player, let's say you have in mind, you'd like to recruit that player.
Yeah.
You make that trip, meet with the parents, meet with the player.
So for me right now, I personally don't have the budget to be flying all over the world.
Okay.
So I rely a lot on technology and being able to set up Zoom calls or Google Meet calls and just building face-to-face time with the players and their parents.
I see you talked about the language. So most of the players speak English?
Yeah,
Okay.
but a number, like there's some of my current players, their parents don't speak English. So it is helpful at that point if they are working with a handler that is, so you can still communicate with them because they can like speak on your behalf.
So it's probably a generalization, but are parents kind of skeptical, or does it just vary from kid to kid as to whether they want their daughter to come to America?
I think it varies, but I think, the decision to go play over in the U.S., that's a big decision for these young ladies. I mean, they're leaving their friends and family. A lot of them only get to go home during the summer, if that. And to give you an example, Inez on my team, she's a fifth-year senior, right? Her dad is flying in today to come watch her during this 3-game homestand we have. And this is the first time he's going to see her play live in the U.S. So that's, I'm like, I told them at the beginning of the practice, like, I'm so hyped for her. Like, I'm so excited for her. But, they're sacrificing a lot. So I think when the players say to their parents early, like, this is what I want, I think the parents realize, wow, they're not making this decision lightly because they are sacrificing so much to go over there.
Do you have to, are there times where the parents are really, they're against it, the player wants to come?
I haven't run into that.
Okay.
I feel, by the time, like, usually with the international kids, it's a little bit later that we get involved. Like U.S. kids, because they can come visit, we may have them on our list as an 8th grader, 9th grader, right? But with the internationals, by the time we're really getting involved is like their junior year or sophomore year, we put them on a list, but then being able to reach out to them in their junior year. So I feel they're a little bit older, and then plus most international players are technically a year older anyway with the way their school system operates. They tend to be a year older than your average senior in high school. So I think there's just another level of maturity with that.
It's funny you say exactly what I was going to ask you
Yeah.
next. So they are a little bit older.
Yeah.
So they've matured a little bit more.
Yes.
I've noticed that, with the women who play on your team. So how important is that for you, that extra maturity, that they've reached a little bit more maturity?
Well, so I think part of my job is to help them grow on and off the court. So I'm not necessarily looking for the most mature player, but I'm looking for character. I'm looking for someone that I personally want to have in my orbit for the rest of my life. Because that's the thing I try to tell these kids. It's not a 4-year decision. Like, if you come play for me, it's going to be a 40-year decision. I'm there for you. So character is more important to me than maturity. But I do feel because of what they're sacrificing to come here, they do just bring another level of maturity to the program.
Now, in terms of connecting with the players, do you have to learn the different cultures in the different countries?
I think it's important to show that you're interested, and that like if they have a certain holiday, let them know that you congratulate them or celebrate with them, or you have some knowledge about it. And I think it's important to let them share about themselves and about, hey, like right now, this is a special holiday in my country. Normally I'd be surrounded by my friends and family, so you don't want them to feel isolated. So I think because we do have a big international population on our team, like this is the most I've ever had, I have 8 this year. I think it's just really important to just show that you care and are interested in what they're doing off the court, not just on the court.
Now, I imagine there's obviously adjustments, even for kids who come from other states. How do you help them adjust? Or can you help them adjust?
Well, I think right now, the way we're set up, like we normally have at least 3 or 4 internationals on the roster every year. So I think the returners are a huge help on that, because they can be like, hey, when I was a freshman, I went through the same thing that you're going through now, okay? Or like if they're having issues understanding what to do with their visa or anything like that, it's nice to already have some experienced players that have been through each of those steps that they've been through. But I think the biggest thing is I think my staff, we really value our players. We really want to make them feel wanted and appreciated here. So I think by just caring about them, it helps them not get as homesick. You're going to get homesick, but not as homesick.
Gotcha. Just out of curiosity, are the recruiting rules different, NCAA recruiting rules different internationally than domestically?
Not really. Like the time frame of when you can reach out is the same. There are some with a recruiting calendar where it's not necessarily a U.S. calendar, but you still could go watch them. So that's a little bit different. But the biggest thing right now that the internationals are dealing with is the whole NIL situation. They're not technically allowed to profit from it.
Really?
Yeah, so you have to kind of be...
Why is that?
Because they're technically here on a student visa, they're not on a work visa.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And that would be a violation of their work visa.
Gotcha. Just out of curiosity, I don't really understand I really don't know the European system as well, but I'm assuming there's some kids who also have played ball for clubs while they're going to school, or even after they've graduated.
Yeah, so that's the kind of interesting thing with the international play. Like, they can play on a club with people that are getting paid to play, but they still can keep their amateur status as long as they're only accepting what's necessary to be on the club.
Okay.
Okay, like uniform, per diem, whatever, but they can't be a professional and receive like an income from it.
So they got to know ahead of time whether or not they want to come here. Otherwise, they could
lose their eligibility.
Wow.
Yes. Another interesting thing with our international recruiting is my husband helps out a lot with the international recruiting. So his family is Croatian, and I think that's been kind of a fun thing to have the 3 Croatians on the team, and when our family comes to games, for them to be able to interact with the other Croatians. But I'm just really lucky to be surrounded by people that really care about our kids and want to, like, obviously we're looking for talent, but I think one of the things that we've done really well is recruit character. And I think when you have a group that really is committed to each other, special things happen. And so like this year, like I'm really excited about this group because I just sense they care about each other. It's not just like, what can I do? What, why is she getting that? This is what I want. It's about what we can do together. So, and it's really remarkable when you think we have so many different languages, so many different cultures, freshmen to grad students. But at the end of the day, they love basketball and they care about each other. So it's pretty cool.
Your starting 5 is international.
Yep, it is.
I wonder if that's a record.
Yeah.
The world's your oyster. Do you focus in on different continents, different countries?
Well, I think once you do have kind of an in, because you had a certain player like Croatia, like this technically, we've had 4 Croatians in our program since I've been here now. So I think when you see that they have a good experience here on the court, academically, socially, I think it excites more people in their country or the program they played in to say, yeah, I'll check out Manhattan.
But when you're watching games, are you like spanning the globe?
Yeah, I watch until I'm like, I want that. All right, that's what I want in my program. I want to coach that. Like some kids just have like an it factor about them, or they just really fit your style of play. So obviously some countries have a certain style that fit really well with what we're trying to do.
What countries are those?
So you kind of can look at our roster to see that. So we've been really blessed to have the Croatians, to have our Spanish kids. Denmark's also been a good country, Finland, Germany, Spain. Like, it's been pretty incredible.
Gotcha. Last thing, do you get any flack from coaches here, from AAU clubs, that you're not recruiting, let's say, domestically more?
I think at times that does happen, you know. But the thing is, we do always start local first, you know, but it's also with recruiting, you can't wait around for someone. You know what I mean? Like, if they're just, you put an early offer in and they don't decide for over a year and you find somebody else, like, at the end of the day, that's on them, you know? But we do always start locally first. But like I said, we've just had such great success with the internationals. We're not going to not recruit internationals. Like, it's definitely part of our success.
And last thing, so many international players, there must be something special about them to you. Can you summarize what's special about it?
Like, I can't imagine being like 17, 18 years old and going across an ocean to go play basketball and knowing I'm not going to see my friends and family more than once, you know, possibly during the year, right? So I just have so much respect about the sacrifice that they're making. Plus, to be able to do what they do academically, like, obviously with basketball, they're great, but to learn in a second language, and our, you know, knock on wood, our internationals have been phenomenal students. Like, they're just really impressive to me, really impressive.